was California International, 1996. And now, here's Melinda.
I feel very fortunate, along with my director for Talk of the Desert, Gary Davis. We were invited over to my special guest's home recently to do some videotaping for this show of Talk of the Desert. And I swear this man has 20 fingers on his hand. I'd like to welcome Maestro James Raphael. James, welcome to Talk of the Desert. Absolute delight to be in your home and to listen to you play the pieces. And I've never seen anybody play pieces like you, who you get a workout on that piano.
Well, it's very kind of you. I sure do, especially when I'm playing in summer festivals in Italy in the summer. That's an incredible experience.
I would imagine. You have this fantastic talent, but how did you find out you had this fantastic talent?
Well, I started when I was about 8 years old. We lived in England, in Brighton, actually. And actually, it was a real old house, and we had a real old piano. And even some people even said the house was haunted. Some students, and this piano was so interesting that I just started playing on it. It was just very interesting, inspiring to play on that piano. And I started learning I had a wonderful teacher in England, in Brighton. Her name was Mrs. Morrish. She was such a gentle woman. She would always address me as dear heart. Oh. And she didn't intimidate me. And that was very important for a child starting.
So the piano attracted you first to it, so you just kind of got up on the bench and started playing away on the keys?
Yes, I started playing, and this Mrs. Morris, she just started teaching me little pieces, and then I did a piano contest after the first few months in the Royal Pavilion in Brighton. And I felt as a child, at 8 years old, I felt important, and it just inspired me, and I got a prize there. And it was really nice, yeah.
So you were taught to read music?
Yes,
this was not by ear?
No, yeah. From the beginning. The first two pieces I played was called Pixie in the Word and Bird on the Wing. And I read them. And then after that, of course, I continued my education in Italy. Then I went to study at San Cilia Conservatory.
No, wait a second, James.
Yes.
Somebody who just ends up winning a little piano prize, which I happened to do after my first ruins of playing a piano, and I don't play the piano any longer. But, you know, some children will not be encouraged. You said you were encouraged to do it, but you also have to have some kind of talent. You're just not all of a sudden aren't going from England to Italy to wherever for training if you don't have some talent behind you.
Well, I mean, the older I got, the more I was practicing. And then my father and mother moved to Italy. My father at the time was in the antique business, and he was also a jeweler and was making beautiful jewelry in Italy. And then I had the chance to have these wonderful teachers in Italy. And Italy was such an inspiring country for music. It's a country of opera and art, and just everything that comes into you is inspiring. And then I went to that wonderful conservatory of San Cecilia there, and I studied with a wonderful teacher called Rina Rossi and Carlo Zecchi, and it was wonderful. And then I went to Paris after that to study with Aldo Ciccolini at the Paris Conservatory and Nadia Boulanger.
So practice does make perfect, huh?
Yes, and over the years, of course, I practiced more and more. So I started an hour a day, then I went up to 3 hours a day, and finally, I never really practiced more than 4 hours a day. Yes.
Yeah, well, I think your fingers would get pretty tired from doing that, wouldn't it?
Yes.
But how did you discover these different teachers? Just by reputation?
Yes, well, in Italy, when you go to the conservatory, there's different teachers who they recommend. And then of course, I started with a student of one of these master teachers. And then after a while, the student, after a few years, she said, I have nothing more to teach you. And now we can go on to the master, who was my teacher. And so it's kind of, you know, from child to father, it's kind of a hierarchy of teachers, and that's how it worked with me.
Well, James, we've got several pieces of you playing the piano.
Yes.
And I would like to play the first section, if we can, right now, and that's the Godfather theme?
Well, I wrote 7 variations on the theme from the movie The Godfather. Of course, the music is by Nino Rota, and it's on my new CD, actually, and this is a piece that I'm sure you can't refuse to listen to.
I love that you even dressed the part for the Godfather.
Well, yes, that was just one variation, but...
Do you have a little ham in you, James?
Well, I love wearing different costumes and different hats, and especially when it appeals to a certain part of the music. So I think it's fun to do that. Like I love doing Mozart dressed in a Mozart outfit.
And we're going to see
Yes.
Mozart here in a couple of minutes. But let's get back
Yes.
to your schooling.
Yes. Okay, well then, of course, after I finished the Academy of San Cecilia in Rome, which is the highest academy of music in Italy, and actually in the world, they give you the title of maestro. So in Italy, when you finish an academy like that, you're known as maestro. Then after that, I went to Paris, and I studied at the Paris Conservatory. And then I was ready for a competition, so I decided to do the Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow. So that was a time that, you know, communism was still at its full, full extent. And I stayed in a hotel, a big hotel in Russia called the Russia Hotel. And in every hallway, there was a woman watching everybody what they were doing, and what rooms you were doing, and when you were coming out. And so it was a wonderful experience. The halls were packed. People waited overnight in lines to get into to hear the contestants.
James, this
Yes.
Tchaikovsky
Yes.
competition in Russia
Yes.
is a big deal.
Yes.
You're making kind of light of it.
Well,
I mean, because there are not very many people who get to compete for this.
no, you really have to be one of the best pianists in the world. And but I mean, of course, everybody hopes to win the contest. And I was only 18 at the time, and I thought I'd go there and I'd win the first prize, and then it would be nothing for me. And then it wasn't. I noticed so easy. So when I didn't win, I got in a kind of depression in Russia. And there was another Russian who also didn't win, and he was really depressed because if a Russian and don't get a prize there, so he told me, now we're going to go drink vodka, you and me, with my sister, and we're going to get a nice swim in the Moscow River. And so we did that, and I did that, and it cleansed me, and I felt much better after that swim, which was really freezing water.
How many people can say they've swum in the Moscow River, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. No, explain to our audience really
Yes.
that this competition really is the ultimate. I mean,
Yes.
it's...
Well, there's other contests, like I also did the Liszt competition in Budapest, which was also Harold Schoenberg there, the great critic from the New York Times. He was in the jury when I did that in '88. And I was classified as one of the best 20 pianists in the world there, among the best 20 in the world. And that was a great contest, played in the Liszt Academy in Budapest, so beautiful. And there was a great jury of Russians and Americans, 10 people.
Well, James,
Yeah.
how are you selected for these competitions?
Well, you have to send tapes, and you have to do videos. Sometimes they do it by videos. But I really prefer doing concerts and directly with the public. Like, my most inspiring times is when I give concerts in Italy in the summer and play in piazzas. Like a few years ago, I played in Castel Gandolfo, right under the Pope's window, under Summer Palace. And there was a lot of people there, and I put a beautiful grand piano right under his window and on a stage. And I played all these beautiful pieces like St. Francis preaching to the birds, St. Paul walking on water, and the Pope heard me under his window. And that was a wonderful experience.
That must be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
James, we're going to go to the second piece
Yes.
that we have of you. Can you introduce that?
Yes, well, actually, this next piece is by the great Khachaturian, and it's called a saber dance. And actually, it's you see men with swords in their hands. It's from the ballet Ganesha, and you see these warriors dancing with swords. And I hope I capture that feeling a little bit.
James, this is the piece where I really felt you had 20 fingers, or as Gary Davis said, he thought you played with 10 fingers and 5 toes.
Oh, well,
yeah.
we liked it.
I mean, you are absolutely fantastic, and I just think that I've never seen anybody quite play the way that you do, with the passion and the energy, and you really do. You put a workout into your pieces.
Yes, well, as I say, when I play in the summer festivals in Italy, I play in the open air, and I'm all soaked after. It's like I was in 1,000 rainstorms. And it's such a feeling after of exhilaration to play in these piazzas. Like, I'll tell you about one piazza I played, Campo di Fiori, and actually that's the piazza where Giordano Bruno was burned at the stake by the Vatican in the 12th century. And there's a big statue of now in the piazza. And then I played with the orchestra right there in the piazza, the Mozart D minor concerto, the tragic one that Mozart wrote when his mother died. And that was really an eerie experience. It was a full moon, and it was such a wonderful atmosphere, this old piazza, and this great statue of Giordano Bruno staring at you. It was something.
Sounds very intimidating.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Well, James, you've played all these different venues. What has been your favorite?
Where I like to play the best?
Yes.
Well, I love playing here in Palm Desert as well. I did many concerts with the Coachella Symphony Orchestra, and I always found it a very inspiring experience. And I think the conductor is wonderful, Christian Chalafour, and I think he's doing a wonderful job with the orchestra. And it's always wonderful to play with them. And I also play a lot of recitals, and I also did a recital. You know, I live in Sun City a few months a year, at least about 5 months. We bought this house 5 years ago. And when I'm there, I do also recitals, and the people are very appreciative. So, of course, I play a lot in France. I'm playing with the symphony this September, the Schumann Piano Concerto. And last year we did the Grieg Concerto in France. And so there's many places I love to play, all over the world. Hong Kong, I played with the symphony. And,
but you also live part of the year in Florida and in Italy.
Yeah, well, in Florida, we have a place there in St. Petersburg Beach, on the beach. I love the water.
Go from the desert to the
yes,
beach, okay?
The beach. And I love to practice, like, looking at the ocean. And it's such a relaxing feeling to learn new pieces in front of the ocean and watch the dolphins jump. And it's very relaxing. And I spend a month there, and it relaxes me for the rest of the year. It's great.
And how much time do you spend in Italy every year?
In Italy, we spend usually, well, the summers, usually about 4 months a year. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Usually we're there from June to about October. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, James, you have somebody who's really special to you. You brought a photo. And I thought as we went into our break, maybe
yes.
you could share with us.
Well, this is my son, Emmanuel. He's 12 years old. And he's going to a French school. He speaks 3 languages. And he plays piano very nicely. As a matter of fact, he played in my recital with me in Sun City, January 8th. And he played a piece of Schumann, and it was very appreciated. And he left for Europe the next day back to school.
Mm-hmm. What was it like to play with your son in a duet?
It was wonderful. I like doing that, and it inspires him quite a bit. And I'm trying to encourage him to learn music and keep practicing, because at that age they get interested in sports and other things and computers, and there's so many distractions. And I think it's very important for children to appreciate art.
Now, did either of your parents play the piano?
Yeah, my mother did play. She was really an angel for me. She always inspired me to play and always encouraged me. And she always had the patience to listen to me, which is the most important thing, to sit there next to your child and just listen and, encourage all the time. And she was wonderful. Henriette Raphael.
Yeah.
And, yes.
Well, James, when we come back from the break, we're going to listen to 3 more of your pieces.
Okay. And
then talk more about your career.
Okay.
We'll be right back with Talk of the Desert.
Thank you.
Now back to Melinda and her special guest, Maestro James Raphael.
Listening to is available on CD from Maestro James Raphael. James,
Yes.
explain about the CD.
Yeah, well, this is my new CD. Was just released all over Europe on the company Ars Musica. I'm playing on it 13 variations on the Hatikvah and Fugue. That's the national anthem of Israel. That's dedicated to the victims of the Holocaust. And that's one of my wonderful compositions on the theme of Hatikvah. And then, of course, I'm playing my Godfather variation. 7 variations of the Godfather is on it, plus 15 preludes of Nino Rota, which have never been recorded before. And this is very interesting because Nino Rota, of course, was a composer for all the music of the Fellini movies and the Godfather movie. So this is a wonderful thing. And of course, I'm also playing the second Rhapsody of Liszt. Now, the painting on the CD was made by a great Italian artist and one of the cities I gave a concert in. As you see me flying in the air on a cloud, playing piano with all the people in that city looking up in the cloud, including the band, the brass band. And this artist it was an incredible painting. It's very surrealistic. And I just love it. I put it on the cover of my CD.
Now you have a second CD too, second CD too, James.
Yes.
I couldn't say that.
Yes. Now this CD, I'm playing music of Respighi and Liszt. All the beautiful works of Liszt, like St. Francis preaching to the birds, St. Paul walking on water by Liszt, Blessed of God in the Solitude, and the Dante Sonata, which is an incredible piece. And of course, Respighi was a great Italian composer, and I'm playing 3 Gregorian preludes, plus some 2 old arias. One was by the father of Galileo, which nobody really knew he was a composer. The artwork on it is by the great painter Leroy Neiman, and as you see, he painted me kind of 3 times, you know, interlocking each other. And he heard me in a concert, Leroy Neiman, and he made this of me and gave it to me as a present. And this was such an incredible moment when he handed me this painting. It was a very emotional experience. It was just something unbelievable that he did that.
And you had no idea that he was painting this for you?
No, I had no idea, and had no idea they would give it to me.
Yes.
Since his paintings are, yes.
Well, James, your home is so fascinating because you've got a lot of famous artists who have painted your portrait at the piano. Can you tell us about some of the paintings and some of the artists?
Well, I wanted to also first leave a number where they could
yes, please.
buy these CDs. The phone number you could call to order them is 360-7641. That's a local number, 760-360-7641, if you'd like to order these CDs.
Okay. Now let's talk about the paintings that are on your walls.
Now my painting, yes. Well, I have one painting which is very incredible. It's by the great Italian artist Gelling. And this is a one-eye artist. He only has one eye, and he painted the Pope. And it's in the Vatican. And he also painted Pavarotti, and that painting is in the Scala of Milano. But he also painted President Clinton, and it's in the White House. And it's incredible, with one eye, what he did. He captured everything better than if an artist with 2 eyes. It's called the all-seeing eye, I call his eye. It's incredible.
And he's done all these fabulous paintings, and he painted you and gave you the painting.
Yes, and then, of course, I was done by R.C. Gorman, the great painter R.C. Gorman. He painted me playing the ritual fire dance at the piano, and you can see in the painting all the fire coming out of the piano, and he made my face look Native American, which was a great honor for me that he did that, gave me the attributes of a Native American. And and then I have one by Raphael, a great Italian artist, called The Colossal Pianist. He paints a big portrait of me with a small piano in my hand. So I call it the Colossal Pianist painting, and I'll be using that in a future CD. That will be on my future CD.
Okay. Well, James, also, we have another piece that you performed for us, and it's by Mozart, and you're even dressed as Mozart.
Yes, well, I'm playing a part here of the Fantasy of Mozart in D minor, and I put the appropriate costume on, so I hope you like it.
Well, you're dressed in costume, and I love it.
Yes.
That's great, and it's a beautiful, beautiful piece from Mozart.
Yes,
his music is fabulous.
Yeah, it's a very unusual piece of Mozart. It's kind of a fantasy form, which usually he didn't write pieces like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've performed with the Coachella Valley Symphony, and what other venues have you performed here in the desert?
In the desert, well, besides giving many recitals, and I played at least 6 times with the Coachella Symphony. And since I haven't been here that much, I've been only 5 years for a few months a year, I haven't performed that much besides these, since when I come here it's more to enjoy the wonderful nature here and rest from my tours in Europe. And I just love the desert. I love the walks. I love the nature here, the wildlife, and everything is just so incredible. Yeah. And I was going to tell you about another little concert I gave in Italy in the summer. I played in a village called the City That's Dying. It's a city on top of a mountain with a big bridge you have to get to it. They put this grand piano in the middle of the piazza, and it's a city that the sides of the city are falling apart, and they're trying to raise money to reconstruct the city. So I played this wonderful program. There were a lot of people came there in the evening. It was a wonderful evening. And but I didn't play my Mephisto chord because one extra chord could send the city tumbling. So I didn't play my chord from Miss Oval, my heaviest one that I could do.
And
my energy.
And the way you play the piano, James, you play the piano.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no question about that. You know, James, do you think that, and for our children, as we saw your son earlier, are they being given the opportunity to develop a classical talent?
Where?
Well, just in general, in the United States.
Well, yes. The trouble is, as I said, there's too many distractions. Like television takes so much, children just watch, I think, way too much television, and they don't take the time to go and practice music. And then, especially with the computers now, they want to be or in front of the computer or in front of the television, or, of course, sports.
No, wait a second.
Yes.
You have to, they can watch Talk of the Desert, as we're G-rated.
Yes, that they can watch.
Yeah, okay.
And children have to be, you have to divide the time and tell them this is the time to practice. But, of course, you can't force it either, because if you force it too much, you'll get a dislike of it. So it has to be handled really delicately, a music education for children. Otherwise, just get turned off. So it takes a little concentrating on the particular case.
And how would a parent know that their child may have a talent that they need to develop?
Well, if they're attracted to the piano or to any instrument, violin, and they like to listen to music and they try and imitate, things that they hear, then it means they have a tendency towards it. Yeah. It's like when I was a child, Arthur Rubinstein was my idol. And I went to hear him in concerts, and he was the first person I saw to play the ritual fire dance. It was so unbelievable, and I wanted to be like him, and then I wanted to study with him. And finally, I managed to play for him. I was in the first Rubinstein competition in Israel, and he was there, and I finally met him, and I was able to play for him, and he was able to listen to me. And then Horowitz was my idol, too, Vladimir Horowitz, as a child, yes.
Well, must have been, were you nervous when you were playing in front of your idols?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Was that a stupid question?
But afterwards, it was a great feeling of accomplishment, and it was immediate improvement in our way of playing. So I always tried to play for these people that I idolized.
I would imagine you really pushed yourself on those, didn't you?
Yes, I really did.
Really inspired you.
Yes.
Well, let's go to our fourth piece, which is by Liszt.
Yes. Well, Liszt is a wonderful composer. What I love about Liszt, he tries to have weightlessness of the arms, and he tries to make the arms and the hands sound like birds or water fountains. Like this piece that I'm playing now is called Gondoliera of Liszt, and it's about a gondola floating with a beautiful blonde lady in it. And Liszt is admiring this lady, and you're going to hear Gondoliera by Franz Liszt.
James,
Yes.
that was just so beautiful.
Well, thank you very much.
Sorry we had to really edit that down for the half-hour show, but I thoroughly enjoyed that piece very much.
Thank you very much.
But do you have a favorite piano? I mean, is there like the Stradivarius, like in the violins, is there that of the piano?
Well, actually, there is. I love the Steinway piano. Of course, there's other wonderful instruments, but I love the Hamburg Steinway pianos that were made about 20, 30 years ago, because they took such care. Like these technicians used to go in the Black Forest and listen to each tree, how the wood whistled. And then they would make the piano from this very special wood they would choose and listen to it. And it was done with great care, and today it's not quite like that anymore. I have in my home a Hamburg Steinway piano that is shipped from Europe. And that wood, I know, is used to Black Forest weather. See, and the desert is not like the Black Forest. So I had to put a special humidifier inside the piano. My piano tuner, Steve Salmatia, is wonderful, and he installed this terrific humidifier that I have to always, every week, pour water in, and it keeps the wood exactly the temperature like it would be in the Black Forest. So it saved my piano, really, and it's wonderful.
Now, do you have to eat Black Forest cake before you can play the piano
well,
from the Black Forest? I'm sorry,
yeah,
that's
Black
the way
Forest
my
cake.
humor is.
Well, when I lived in Vienna, I studied in Vienna also at the musical, and I decided to go at the Sasha Hotel and have Black Forest cake. But, you know, it's something that I really didn't like so much.
James,
yes.
We need to talk very briefly about your jewelry designs.
Oh, yes.
You're wearing a beautiful piece on your lapel,
yeah.
but you followed in your daddy's footsteps.
Well, that's a great hobby of mine. I love making jewelry, and I love buying stones, precious stones like emeralds, rubies, sapphires, and then I make jewelry in gold, and I also do that in Italy. Like, here's a piece that I designed. This is in 18-karat gold, and it's based on the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Now, you know what the Book of the Dead is. The pharaohs had it in their tombs because they had to appease every one of these gods to get to heaven. So I liked designing this, and it was very interesting to do it, and I designed a lot of interesting pieces.
But yeah, you followed your dad's footsteps, and your grandfather was a jeweler.
Yeah, and my great-grandfather. So,
really?
Yeah, it went back. My great-grandfather was Buhara.
James, we only have about 30 seconds left.
Yes.
What's in the future for James Raphael, Maestro James Raphael?
In the future? Well, I love composing as well as playing. Like I composed a piano concerto for harp, piano, and orchestra. I'm going to get that performed. It's just all orchestrated and finished. I want to get that done. And I want to compose a lot more of my own compositions. On the CD, by the way, there's also a Kaddish I wrote for the piano, which is my own composition. It's on my CD. And I like to compose a lot more and give a lot of recitals like I'm doing, and I just love the piano, and I'm crazy about music.
Well, I can tell. But James,
Yes.
we've got one piece that we're closing the show with, but
Yes.
I'd like to thank Maestro James Raphael for being my special guest on
thank
Talk
you
of the
very
Desert.
much.
And if you would introduce the Chopin piece.
Yes. Well, this next piece is one of my favorites. As a matter of fact, once my father asked me on Father's Day to give him this present and learn the Chopin Polonaise at A flat. And I learned it for him when I was 13 years old. And now here's part of it. The Chopin Polonaise at A flat is called the Grand Polonaise.